Hello, my fellow unicorns. Today I'm going to read another story from the Random House Book of Fairy Tales. Today's story is Rumplestiltskin by the Brothers Grimm. There was once a miller who was very poor, yet his daughter was more beautiful than any maiden in the land. One day it happened that the miller met the king. "I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold," the miller said, trying in this way to make himself seem important. "Is that so?" said the king. "Such a skill interests me greatly. Bring your daughter to the castle tomorrow, and then we shall see what we shall see." When the girl was brought to him, the king led her to a little room filled with straw. He gave her a spinning wheel and a winder and said, "Now you must set to work quickly. If by dawn tomorrow the straw has not been spun into gold, you will have to die." Then without a backward glance he left the room. The girl heard a key turn in the lock. She was entirely alone and terrified, for she had not the least idea how straw could be spun into gold. The hours passed, and it grew darker and darker, and at last she threw herself upon the straw, weeping for her life. Suddenly the door sprang open. Before her stood a tiny man. He was not even as tall as her waist. "Good evening, my girl. Why are you weeping?" he said. The girl answered, "I was told to spin gold out of straw, and I don't know how to do it." "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "You shall have my necklace," she said. At this, the little man seated himself before the spinning wheel and began to work. The wheel whirred and sang all through the night, and one by one the spools piled near it were filled with gold. When the king unlocked the door and saw the glittering gold, his mouth fell open in astonishment. Yet he was not satisfied. "You did well, my dear. Now let us see how much more gold you can spin for me tonight." He led her to another room filled with straw, and this one was much larger than the first. "If you value your life, you will spin it all by morning," he said. Once again the girl began to weep. She had no more idea how it was done than the first time. Suddenly, the door opened, and the little man appeared. "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold?" "The ring from my finger," she said without hesitation. And so he began to work again at the spinning wheel, and by morning he was done. Not a piece of straw remained in the room, only spools and spools of gold. The king was delighted at the sight of so much gold, but he was a very greedy man, and so he still wanted more. He led the miller's daughter into a third room, far bigger than the first two, and filled to the top with straw. "Tonight you must spin all this into gold. If you succeed, you shall be my queen." The king no longer cared that she was only a miller's daughter. All he could think about were the riches he would gain. When the girl was alone, the little man came again and said for the third time, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold for you?" I have nothing more I can give you, she cried in dismay. Promise me your first child if you should become queen, the little man said. Who knows if that will ever happen, thought the maiden, and so she agreed. Without another word, the little man set to work, and soon all the straw was spun into gold. When the king came in and saw it, he celebrated his marriage to the girl at once. Now the miller's daughter was queen of the land. About a year later, a beautiful child was born to her. She had forgotten all about the little man, but she had made her promise, and the very next day he was there in her room. Now give me the child, he said. The queen was horrified and told the little man if he could have all the wealth of the kingdom, if he could let her keep the child, but he cared nothing for riches. I would far rather have some living thing, he said, and he reached out his arms for the baby. At this, the queen began to weep and moan as if her heart would break. The little man took pity upon her and said, I will give you 3 days, and 3 days only. If within this time you discover my name, you may keep the child. During the night, the queen remembered all the names she had ever known, and she sent a messenger into the countryside to discover what other names there were. When this little man appeared the next day, she began to call them out one by one. Are you Caspar? Are you Melchior? Are you Bowser? But each time he only shook his head and said, No, that is not my name. On the second day, the messenger told the queen the most strange and unusual names from the farthest parts of the kingdom. Perhaps your name is Cow Ribs, she said to the little man when he came. Perhaps it is Spindle Shanks. Perhaps it is Lace Legs. No, that is not my name, he said again and again. And now only 1 day remained. The next morning the messenger returned to the palace riding hard. I have found no more names, he told the queen, but as I came to a high mountain at the end of the forest, I saw a tiny little house, and in front of the house a fire was burning, and around it a strange little man was hopping on one leg and singing, Today I bake, tomorrow I brew, the next the queen's child I will claim. Lucky it is that no one knows that Rumplestiltskin is my name. How glad the queen was when she heard the name. Soon afterwards, the little man came back and asked, Now what names have you for me today? Is your name Klaus? She said. No. Is it Heinz? No. Is it perhaps Rumpelstiltskin? The devil told you that, the devil told you that, screamed the little man. In his rage, he stamped his foot so hard on the ground that he sank in up to his waist. And then, as the queen watched in horror, he seized his other leg with both hands and tore himself in two. The end. That one is a very nice and short and sweet story, and I absolutely love this drawing. She reminds me a bit of the Frog Princess, and she just looks so sad but so beautiful. And I guess it was a arranged marriage or forced marriage, and to a greedy king. But at least she gets to be queen, and she has a baby, and she got to keep the baby, so that's really good. I think this is a lesson in not dealing in or making deals that you can't commit to or that are going to compromise you. You know, the miller's daughter didn't really think about having kids, and she didn't know how much her children would mean to her. And so when she finally has one, she realizes just how precious they are. So she really regretted giving her baby up, or even like almost giving her baby up. So, moral of the story is be careful what you wish for, and be careful when you make a deal, and that you're not giving too much up of yourself. So she got lucky, but not everybody gets lucky, you know. Yeah. So, and then I love this illustration too, because she's so beautiful holding her baby. I love the colors and the flow of her dress and everything. So beautiful. Anyway,